work.
You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, the end is near.
Well, here we go, another Saturday night in New England. June 26, 2021. We're on Armageddon watch. Nothing yet. We're still waiting. Well, we've only been waiting 100 years, but I guess we can just have some more patience. Well, there we go. We got off to a little bad start tonight, but we're on with you guys. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on our Six Screens video suite, and we are moving in the right direction. We got a lot of things going here tonight. As I said earlier, we have some really good programming coming up tonight, so by all means, stay with us. We're going to do the news, and then at 8 o'clock, we have Reese, the conspirator of the year. My goodness, probably the century. This man knows a lot about conspiracies, and of course he deals with Watchtower conspiracies. He's a former Jehovah's Witness. He'll be coming in at 8 o'clock tonight. So we're looking forward to Reese coming on and being with us and sharing his thoughts on what's going on in the world and what's going on in the Watchtower. Well, anyways, my name's Rick Farron. I'm coming to you live from right outside the apostate capital of the world up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And we've been doing this now for 16 years. My throat's a little froggy tonight because of the pollen in the air, but we'll do the best we can. But anyways, let's get right into it. We don't have a whole lot of time. But, I have to tell you something that's something that is circling around in the world of the witnesses. Now, sometimes it's not announced from the stage. We all know that. But what's going on right now? Elders are calling some of the publishers, and they're saying, could we use your house in case of an emergency? What? Now, what would you do if you got a call from the elders and they said, could we use your house in case of an emergency? Well, this is really frightening many of the witnesses to death, that they just feel that Armageddon must be coming. So why would they do this? What about the Kingdom Halls? Well, I guess they're selling them all off, but they're actually asking publishers. Imagine you get a call from an elder. Hey, your brother Farron, I'm just wondering, I know you got a big house. Could you use that for an emergency if we have to? What's the first thing that's going to come to your mind? You're going to be thinking Armageddon's right around the corner, right? Boy, these guys are good. They are great fearmongers. If you had to boil this down, the single point that I would come forth with is control. They want total control. Now, they're asking you to, again, get your go bags ready. They've been really pushing this message. Get those go bags ready. And I'm thinking, here you are. You're in a house. You're not in any imminent danger. They're kind of telling you to get ready to leave and to go outside. They're not even telling you where to go. I guess now they might say, well, go to brother so-and-so's house. At first I heard you were being told to go to a Kingdom Hall, but that doesn't seem to be in the equation any longer. So I'm thinking, rather than call these go bags, maybe the Watchtower should call them stay home bags. Think about it. Wouldn't you be safer in your house? How much food can you put in a go bag? Well, let's say you have 2 or 3 little kids, and your husband and wife and all the kids have their own go bag. How much food can you put in there? Can you last a month? In your house, you could. So I don't know what the big hoop to do is about all of this, but it just doesn't make any sense. But you know something, friends? It's not only not making sense to me, it's not making sense to the Jehovah's Witnesses as well. So I wanted to share those things with you. I'm saying that this could really backfire on the witnesses. Now, I know back in 1975, when 75 came and Armageddon did not show up, did you know in the next couple of years, 250,000 Jehovah's Witnesses left the organization? Did you know that? Well, that's exactly what happened. And because it was a false narrative, it was phony, it was fake. And it really got a lot of witnesses thinking, and they said, that's it. We have enough of doing business with the Watchtower. Now, the same thing could happen here. For the last 4 or 5 years, get your go bag ready. Armageddon's imminent. We're in the final days of the final days. All of this malarkey, and the witnesses are standing by. The food in the bag is going bad. So they're starting to say, hey, wait a minute, I've had enough of this stupidity. But, you know, there are people in the Watchtower that will be very loyal. But, friends, there's so many waking up right now. And we're going to talk about that a little later. Yeah, they are waking up. And we're going to talk about that in just a little while. But what I was thinking here, you know, if you keep crying Armageddon as they have for over 100 years, in fact, let's go with 130 years they've been crying Armageddon. So if you've been crying Armageddon for 130 years, nothing's here yet, don't you think that you're going to get a lot of people giving up and saying, hey, we have had enough? I think so. So that's what I'm thinking. I think you might be thinking the same. What do you think, Anne-Marie? You on with us?
This is Chewy.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Chewy.
Well, you know, it leads to a comment I've been wanting to make for a while, and your comments kind of lead to it. You know, they had Anthony Morris up there. I think it was it Anthony Morris? No, it was Jeffrey Jackson. That's who it was. And he was giving the illustration of a dog, a watchdog. Now, if you have a dog out there and he's barking and you go out there and there's nothing there, would you shoot the dog? Of course you wouldn't shoot the dog. That is such a stupid question to ask. Would you shoot the dog for crying wolf? No, you wouldn't shoot the dog, but you would sure go out there and tell him to shut up, swat him on the butt, put him in the backyard, and after a while, if he kept doing it, then you would quit paying attention. You wouldn't shoot the dog. You know?
Yeah.
That's what he was saying. You know, that's what he was saying. Would you shoot the dog? No, you wouldn't shoot the dog. But if after a while you get tired of it, you're going to go out there and swat him on the butt, put him in the backyard, and forget about it.
Well, you know, you got a point with that. But, you know, when people are hearing this foolishness, Chewy, don't you think it's going to send them to the exit door?
Yeah. I mean, the go back and all that stuff. And now, how would you feel someone coming in? No, you're not using my house. You got a Kingdom Hall. Use that. You're not using my house. Anyway.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chewy. You know, people are getting sick of it. And I was reading on Reddit today, a great illustration was given about a person disconnecting from the Watchtower. It was a man, and he no longer wants to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. At 4 o'clock in the morning, he got up and he was skimming through the internet and reading about Jehovah's Witnesses on JW Facts. And he's been in the organization for a number of years. He's 60 years old. He's been working for low wages all of his life. And now he's getting to retirement age, and he has had enough of the Watchtower. He's just gotten out here in the last year or so, and he's just so fed up with the Watchtower, and he realizes it's all a bunch of hooky gunk. It's not true. Nothing's true. So anyways, he went to his mother, who was still a devout witness, And he said, Mom, he says, I have had enough. I found out the Watchtower is not true anymore. And he used a great illustration, because you know what the mother would say, and you know what Jehovah's Witnesses would say to you? Well, just be patient. Don't you? Jehovah's Day is so close. Hang in here. So anyways, he used this great illustration, and I want you to make at least a mental note of it. Maybe you can use this illustration too if someone badges you about leaving the Watchtower. So he says, suppose your doctor tells you that you don't have, that you don't have your right arm. Let's start all over. Suppose your doctor tells you that if you don't have your right arm cut off, you'll only live for another 6 months. But if you have it cut off, you'll live a normal lifespan. So what would you do? The doctor says, you have to cut your arm off or you're not going to live. You'll only live for 6 months, but cut it off, you'll have a normal lifespan. I think most of us would say, fine, maybe in a quivering voice. Okay, doctor, I'll have my arm amputated. So you choose to have your arm amputated. Then you find out your doctor was wrong. There was nothing wrong with your arm. You go to your doctor to complain about losing your arm. He shows no sympathy and says, hey, you choose to have your arm cut off. Yeah, I guess I did, but you choose based on information and direction that you gave me. So, whose fault is it? That's exactly what it's like in the Watchtower. Many people in the Watchtower have choose to follow the Watchtower. They have choose to not get good jobs. They refuse not to go to college. They refused a lot of things in life, many not getting married, many not having children. And now they're getting older. And it's just like that man that was told, cut your arm off, but then, hey, wait a minute, I'm still here. So, now they have a bone to pick. So he's using that as an illustration, saying, I've had enough. My life has basically been ruined. I am moving on. So that's what a lot of witnesses are now waking up and saying. The organization has a lot of unanswered questions, and they're not going to answer all of this about where is Armageddon. And even the loyal witnesses aren't even going to answer it for you. So when you stop and think about it, what's really getting a lot of witnesses out? Well, that's one of the things right there. We talked about the go bag. You're going to meet at so-and-so's house. You're going to meet the Kingdom Hall. This is the type of stuff that's getting many out. And, many people got out on the Crisis of Conscience book. Many, many Jehovah's Witnesses have read that book, and some did not even finish it, and they realized, that's it, I'm out. Now, also, I came across this week on Reddit again, that do you know that witnesses are getting out in just minutes? Not even hours in some cases. How long did it take you to leave the truth? Well, some of you guys, it took a while. Even me, I moseyed around, coddled up to certain ones. I want to be very careful. But, right now we have a strange phenomena going on in the world of ex-witnesses. They are leaving in a matter of hours. And that was something I also got information on. It was an elder and his pioneer wife. Just in the last few weeks, they said, that's it. He's fed up with it. He doesn't like the idea of the Shepherd book. He doesn't think that should be a secretive book and the things in there that are being said and held from the public and from the authorities. So that was it. Him and his wife discussed that, and out they came in a matter of minutes. And people are doing, friends, isn't that good news? Isn't that good news that this is happening, that we are seeing people coming out in droves? I'm not just using, one or two examples here and trying to read more into it than there is. Many, many people who have been in for years are now finding the exit door. What else? What else is getting people to leave the Watchtower these days? Another big factor in the top 10 reasons why people are leaving has to do with the governing body. People are seeing the governing body for the first time on JW streaming. They're seeing what crazy lunatics these men are. They are not connecting with the general populace of Jehovah's Witnesses. They're saying, man, these people are buffoons. It's not working. So that is getting a lot of people saying, that's it. If these are the faithful and discreet slave, and these are the ones that are dishing out meat in due season, I've had enough. I had enough of these guys. So, many people too that have been in for years are throwing the towel in. They are having doubts. And one of the big things that got so many witnesses out, say, in the last 5 years, you guessed it, the Australia Royal Commission. When everyone saw Brother Jackson lying like a weasel, weaseling right out of that testimony, that really ticked a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses off. They did not like it. Now, friends, I've always said, even for myself, when I left the Watchtower, you have to connect with one little flaw. But your mind at times is so bent on the Watchtower. It's so loyal. This is Jehovah God's organization. You don't even want to think. You don't even want to think about getting on the internet. You don't even want to think that there is a flaw, right? Well, many are seeing these flaws, and all you have to do is see one little flaw, and what does that do? That leads to another flaw, right? So there you go. I just think it's fantastic that we're seeing so many people throwing the towel in and saying, I've had enough. I'm leaving. Friends, we are looking at the Watchtower organization in free fall. We are counting down the last days of the Watchtower. Seriously. And I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses here. I'm not doing that. I'm being as realistic as I can. And I know you guys, you're doing research on your own, aren't you? You're watching all of these YouTubes that the ex-witnesses are making. You're getting into Reddit. You're getting into JWN. You're on Facebook. You're in these groups. There's a proliferation of all kinds of information coming out against the Watchtower. It's a good thing. The witnesses don't like it, but we like it. All right, you're on with us. Who wants to say something?
Rick?
Yes, Anne-Marie.
May I comment on what you said about the elders calling different ones of the rank and file, asking if they could use their home in case of an emergency?
Yes.
That's what they did specifically during the Civil War. They would confiscate, the military would confiscate somebody's home and take it over and use it as the headquarters of operation in that area. They might sound real nice and sweet, oh, brother, can we count on you to let us, use your home, that we can come to your home in case of emergency? That's still, to me, a tactic. Like you said, they're selling off the Kingdom Halls. They definitely sold off zillions, I don't know how many of the branch offices. Can you imagine? Of course, none of the rank and file would say, well, no, gee, brother, I wouldn't feel comfortable. You're going to automatically be thought of as an apostate, and the rumor mill will be going full tilt. So, of course, they're going to say, oh, of course, anything for the brotherhood, help my brothers. But can you imagine if that rank and file member who said, yes, you can use my house in case of an emergency, got that knock on the door, and 2 or 3, maybe 5 or 6 elders were at the door with their suitcases, maybe with their families, and they take over? They're going to take over that home, because nobody is going to be able to take a breath without being worried that they're going to do something wrong or appear something wrong or get in trouble, because everybody's always spying on each other. And anytime you're in the presence of an elder or circuit overseer or whatever, you're always aware that you're being watched. You feel like you're being watched and monitored. But can you imagine, maybe it's a week, maybe they're there a month. Can you imagine being in that position where your home has been taken over and it's your house? Now you have no privacy. You have nowhere to go. You can imagine no privacy in your own home. And now you wish they would leave, and you're wondering, are they ever going to leave? And then you're wondering how to bring it up. Can you imagine the awkwardness of the situation? Thank you, Rick.
Well, as a matter of fact, that is some of the reports I've been getting in here at the Six Screens, that not everybody that's being asked to use their home for one of these so-called Watchtower emergencies, not everybody's happy. Some of them are saying no, just for the very reasons you just spoke about, Anne-Marie. It would be very, very awkward. But geez, the organization, I'm not sure where they're getting their information from. I mean, big organizations usually have a think tank where a bunch of people come together and they think things out before they do something. I'm beginning to see here that nobody's thinking straight. There is so many repercussions and problems that could happen. You just think about this. Hey, Sister Anne-Marie, could we use your house for an emergency? You got a big house and plenty of room. Could we use it? Yeah, that'd be great. Well, let's say a bunch of witnesses come in, a bunch of perverted witnesses, and something takes place in your house that's immoral. Well, who's going to get blamed for that? I mean, what's the Watchtower thinking here? This is absolutely nuts. But again, they don't think. They don't engage their mind before they put things into action. That's what happens in the Watchtower.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, Rick, this is Dan. Hey, I was just listening in. These are their last cards. They don't have any more cards. This is a joke. I mean, can we use your house for an emergency? I mean, how dare them? This ought to be against the law, Rick. I mean, seriously. People under mind control and then scaring the hell out of them. I mean, that's really sad. It just shows, Rick, Watchtower has zero consciousness. Those governing bodies are the lowest scumbags in the world. They're scumbags. And I'm telling you, Rick, I mean, to tell that to the brothers, you know these are their last cards. They don't have any more cards to deal. How much more can they lie? How many more false prophecies? How many did they just have in the last few years? Generation prophecy, overlapping generation. They've run out of them, Rick. So my thing is they're going to make a last-ditch effort to build this stinking media center because it's property off free labor and build some mega deal as big as Universal Studios, just for real estate. These guys are thieves, and they're shaking the brothers upside down, asking for their motor homes, 2005. I mean, this is a joke, but it really isn't a joke, Rick, because, here's the thing. The Bible says, get out or you'll suffer, just like with Borgi, talking about Hitler. Look what happened over in Russia. All the brothers that are in jail because stupid society sends letter bombs over there and buries their ass. I mean, you imagine Putin trying to bury Putin? A psychopath? I mean, this is how crazy Watchtower is, and a whole bunch of brothers are in prison over there because of it. And the Bible says when you see these things, when you see the lies, when you see the deception, when you see the trickery, get out. Anyway, that's it, Rick. Thank you.
Well, very good. No, good comments, Dan. Thank you very much.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, go ahead.
Julie, I got to drop off here in a minute. But they can't even do the lapel badges now and the invitations. They're not even sending them to the congregations. They got to print it out on their own computer, and it's got to be the best. It can't be a black and white one. It's got to be a color one because you're going to be on Zoom, and you got to have a color one. And they don't want it. They don't want any black and white. All the invitations is all printed out on their own computers. They can't even do that. They can't even do that anymore. What a shame. I'm so glad I'm out. I'm so glad.
Well, Chewy, I'm so glad you're out too. I'm glad for everybody out there because it really does. It turns your stomach. It turns your stomach. In fact, thank you, Chewy. What was fascinating here is, when we were all in the organization. Now, I want you just to think about this. When you were in the organization and you were chugging along and you were going to the meetings and you were going out in service, going to the conventions, the assemblies, did you ever think, geez, there's something wrong? There's something wrong with this organization. Did you ever think that? I used to. I really, really did. I say, boy, this organization really makes us earn our responsibilities, earn our pay, so to speak. It's unbelievable what they do. and I would say, gee, something's not quite right. And I'm sure everybody listening to this program tonight is more than likely saying the same thing. Something just wasn't right. And if you thought that then, there's so many right now that are also feeling something is not right. Something is not passing the smell test in the Jehovah's Witness religion. So, but sometimes what happens, many of the real loyal ones, they just, well, that's apostate thinking. We can't do that. And so they just don't think, and they stay loyal to the Watchtower. But many are saying, no, that's it. I'm getting out of here. But what's really amazing me? What really is amazing me is the amount of people that are, it's not just the young ones. Now, a year or so ago, a couple of years ago, we really gave you stories about the young ones getting up and packing. They've had enough. We're talking here people that have been in for 20 and 30 years. As I did my research this week for JW World News, it's just, I've never seen this. There is a proliferation of people that are leaving the Watchtower. I've never seen this. In 16 years of doing this program, I have never seen this amount of people leaving the Watchtower. They are hemorrhaging big time. All right. Well, enough of that. We're coming up here. Go ahead, miss.
I'm sorry, Rick, but sometimes I just feel moved to validate you because you say things, and I want to make sure that nobody thinks that you're exaggerating or pushing the envelope. As you said, Watchtower is hemorrhaging. They are losing members right and left. Every time I turn on Reddit, every time I look at Facebook, and there are many XJW sites on Facebook, and we all know if we frequent those sites, it's just about every single day. There's a new one saying, I just left. I'm turning in my disassociation letter tonight. Or, I just came out to my family and told them I can't do this anymore. Every single day, there's a new one saying, I've never posted before. Here's my story. Usually I find 2 or 3 in one day who say they've never posted. This is my story. That's just the ones that are brave enough and at a point where they are ready to come public in their own way. But I went on Reddit because I see so many the same thing. They're new. This one's new. This one just came out. I just woke up. I hear that all the time. I just woke up. But I finally wrote a little thing like about the PIMQs. Before you're physically in and mentally out, you're a PIMQ. You're physically in, but mentally, it's when you first start to have that doubt. You first start to question. You start having that question that you really think that should have an answer. And maybe you ask somebody and they look at you like you're not right if you ask that question. Something's wrong with you. So to me, it starts with being a PIMQ, then you're physically in, mentally out, and then you somehow hopefully make it all the way out. You're a POMO, physically out, mentally out. But the thing is, somebody asked me, well, how do I know that the group of the PIMQs, physically in, mentally questioning, how do I know, what basis do I have of saying that this group within organization of Watchtower is definitely growing? And it's just what I told you. I have been paying very close attention, as I am sure you have, Rick, as well. You always investigate everything. And they are definitely coming out. We're not just talking about the ones who have actually removed themselves from the organization. No, we're talking about the hundreds, probably thousands, who are physically in the Kingdom Hall, at the meetings through Zoom, going through the motions, playing the game, going according to the Watchtower script because they don't want to lose their family or they're hoping to be able to get their family out with them. They are hemorrhaging outside and they are hemorrhaging within. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie. Always good to hear from you, and you're absolutely right. And thank you for backing me up. I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses here. Hey, listen, every one of us who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, we should be doing the happy dance. We should be jumping and dancing around the house. Friends, our relatives, think about it. Our relatives are also going to be shaken loose here very shortly. You're going to start getting calls from your relatives that haven't spoken to you for many years. I'm not giving you false hopes here. This is happening. This is happening as I speak. Many witnesses are now joining forces again with their relatives and friends that never spoke with them. So this is all good news. I'm giving you good news. I'm giving you good news tonight. Did you hear the story? We talked about it a month or so ago, but I wanted to bring it up again. I wanted to bring it up again because it deserves attention. The Watchtower is asking for older or even newer RVs. They don't want any RV that's older than 1995. They want RVs for what? I don't know. People are wondering, but they're asking, can you donate your RV? What is going on? Is this another scare tactic? I mean, there's a lot of different theories on why they're asking for RVs. Some people are saying that, now that all the kingdom halls are being sold off, now a lot of circuit overseers, by the way, have been living in these kingdom halls, and some of them had apartments. So the circuit overseers have been living in them even during the COVID. So where they're selling these kingdom halls off, they're now thinking of, at least some people are bringing up that these RVs could be for circuit overseers that have been displaced because of the kingdom hall selling all the kingdom halls off. So other thoughts too, look at, they're getting ready to build that. I mean, it's going to be 2026 before it's finished, but the Watchtower is building. They're going to go ahead, it looks like, with that $150 million medium mega center up there in Ramapo. So it looks like they're going to be going involved with that. So maybe they need these RVs for some of the workers to stay in. I don't know. But there's all kinds of thoughts. The Watchtower isn't saying. But I got on a site today. I could not even believe it. And I found out, I found it. It was on a charity giving site. And what you do is you go in this site that you can give to your favorite charity. So I looked it up and punched in Watchtower, and sure enough, it came up. And yeah, it's right there. We are accepting RVs. They want at least 95 and up. And they're really, really trying to get to people. Now, let me tell you something. Another thing, these RVs are bringing big money right now. During COVID, people have been pent up. They couldn't do much. But now they want to get out. People are buying RVs. They want to travel. So RV prices are going to the moon. So this might be another thing the witnesses are probably saying, the Watchtower, that is, geez, we get some of these RVs, we'll sell them off and make a ton of money. It could be all about money.
Rick?
Yes, Anne-Marie.
I'm sorry, I have a question. I thought, I probably remember incorrectly, but I thought when you first mentioned that the Watchtower was asking for donations of RVs, that they wanted no older than 2005. I didn't.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I believe you're right. You're right. I said 1995. I'm still living in the 90s, I guess. But yes, 2005. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you for.
I just wanted to be sure. There is a new lifestyle that has become made more public, and it's called basically the nomadic lifestyle, where many, many people have just chosen to give up any domicile and just to live the nomadic life in an RV. It's a whole movement. And I'm wondering, and I think you're right, not just for circuit overseers or whomever, but who knows that maybe governing body or other Bethel members, they might need a quick mode of transportation. Maybe they don't have enough fuel for their jets, or there's not enough room. I don't trust these guys as far as I can spit. I seriously don't. And even if they did, I think that's really bold and brazen to ask for donations of such an expensive vehicle. You know that any regular rank and file family of Jehovah's Witnesses that managed to procure the funds to be able to purchase an RV, it took a lot of sacrifice. And those same people have been donating and serving and giving of their free labor whenever they can. And now Watchtower is asking them with their vehicle to give it to them. Can you imagine a Watchtower family knowing how much it costs for them to get this RV? And everybody knows that Watchtower wants their RV and the looks they're going to get. Well, brother, the society really needs RVs, and have you considered donating? It's for Jehovah. Oh my God, this is so wrong, Rick. Thank you.
Well, you got it right, Anne-Marie. You got it right. Yeah, we're trying to work on. We've got some people saying they can't hear in the Six Screens video suite, and then we do have some now. Can everyone hear in the Six Screens video suite? Yes or no? Let me know so we can straighten it out. Other than that, how are we going to straighten it out? But we have one person saying they can't hear. Can you all hear in the Six Screens video suite? All right. I guess it's silent now, I guess. Rick is clean. Anne-Marie was clean, then became an echo. But what is it like right now? What is it right now is making some adjustments. The suite is now fine. Okay, thank you, Carrie. I have to know. I mean, sometimes I'm getting information after something has been fixed. So, yes, so we now do good now, but no guest. All right, so let's go on. Thank you, Anne-Marie, for coming in and talking with us. We got more to talk about here on JW World News. Now, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. We have another caller want to come in. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rick, it's Dan. Hey, I wanted to make one more point regarding this, this media center they're building. I would be kind of terrified if I was a Jehovah's Witness, being they sold my Kingdom Hall, the one my parents built, and they're selling them off everywhere. And it would almost feel like your arm is being twisted to give even. Because, man, if we don't have media center, then are we even going to have an organization? So it just seems like such manipulation. I mean, they've got them down to an internet connection. I mean, really, they're only hanging on by an internet connection. And I don't know, I just see that as a form of manipulation, too, this whole thing. You were talking about why these people are leaving. I mean, they're asking the tithe now. They're asking for vehicles. They never did that when we were in, Rick. That was our bragging rights. We don't pass the plate. But these guys are, I mean, like Anne-Marie said, asking for a motorhome. I mean, like you said, the guilt if you had one and you wouldn't give it. I mean, Rick, they're being shaken upside down, these poor people. But like you said, they're saying enough. I've had enough. What are these guys doing? I feel abandoned, Rick. I mean, you go out Sunday morning for breakfast and you see the churches are packed. And you'd say, what the hell's wrong with the witnesses? What's going on here? And I would start asking questions. And I think that's what's happening, Rick. It's backfiring. It's snowballing. People are talking amongst themselves. They're saying, hey, something's going on here. Hey, man, look at this thing. JW.org. They put it on all the halls. We don't go to the halls. Oh, my God, they're transitioning. I mean, they got to start thinking at some point, Rick. It used to be things happened years out for us. Now it's happening in months. In months, things are happening, asking for RVs, doing this, selling halls, build a media center. There's a massive amount happening, and there's hundreds of thousands of people who are getting a voice, and they're not stopping. They're talking. They're gonna talk till this thing topples, and it is toppling. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Dan. Appreciate your comments always. I'm just checking in. We're coming up on 8 o'clock here. I just want to make sure, Reese, I don't know if you can hear us or not. I know you got a new webcam today. It might be in that webcam. Of course, when you come on tonight, like we said, you have to come on the telephone line, your telephone line. So, Reese, I'm not sure if you are out there or not, but we're looking forward to you coming on. I think that we got you on the video suite last night, but I think I can't activate your webcam from where I am here. So give it a shot. See if you can work with that webcam, Reese, and we'll do our best to try to get.
Hey, Rick.
There you are. Yes, Reese.
Rick.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm here.
Okay, hold on.
I actually just walked in the door about 10 minutes ago, but I'm about ready to go here. I was not able to get any audio from your video suite, but that may just be a technical issue with the computer. I can hear you through the phone fine.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's what you want to do. Now I'm going to invite you on the suite here. I'm sending an invitation out now, so let's see if you get that.
Okay, there we go. I see it.
All right. Well, we're going to try to get Reese on with us here on the Six Screens video suite. We'll see if that will work.
Oh, wait a minute. I clicked on it 3 times. Hold on. You know what happened? When I clicked on it, I didn't see anything, and then now I see it. Okay, hang on.
Well, there you are. There you are. Yeah, we got you.
How do I cut out the Rick? How do I cut out the three of them? I got three of them here. Four of them actually now.
Well, go up to the top and see where it says there's like two icons on the top. Hit the one to the left. Go to the top of your screen.
Yeah. All right, there's a T.
Yeah.
Referring to the T?
Yeah, get rid of the T. Yeah.
It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do a thing.
No. Now it opened up a new window. Why don't you drop me and let's do it again?
All right, let's do that. Yep. All right. There we go. In fact, well, I can drop you. I can get you off here. I can get you off right here. Hold on 1 second. I'll take you off here. You see 3EU. Don't worry about it.
Let me close. I'm going to sign out of it. You send me a new invite.
All right, I'll send you an invite. Okay, let's see what happens. Reese right back on with us, friends. We're just getting. He is the conspirator.
Now I can't sign out.
Let's try it now. Hold on 1 second. Let me go back there and get it, Reese. I'm just looking for you. I don't see you in the suite now. You'll have to sign back in.
Okay, I just did.
All right.
It was a little delayed.
All right, there you are. Well, let's get you on now. All right, we're getting Reese on here.
It just went. There we go.
All right, now go down and mute your microphone.
And hold on, I'm working on that now.
On the bottom of your screen. There you go.
I got it.
All right, we're there. So you hang in right there. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to finish this.
I'm not going anywhere. Rick, give me a few minutes to get ready. I just walked in the door 10 minutes ago. I didn't even wash my face. So
well, go ahead. Listen, take about 10 minutes. Go ahead. Just go ahead, walk. Okay. Take about 10 minutes, and just leave the video where it is right now, so there'll be no issues. And then just come back and we'll be all set. Okay.
Okay, Rick. All right, I'll be back.
All right, well, Reese will be right back with us. We'll continue on with the news. He'll be back in about 5 minutes. Friends, you don't want to miss Reese. I want you to get your tin foil hats ready. This man has been down many rabbit holes. You are going to hear some things here tonight you may have never heard in your life. This man is a really good researcher. He has researched so many things, and he's going to speak tonight about these things he's been searching. Now, this is an interview with Reese. Reese will be coming on in another week in the 9:30 spot. Next Saturday night, he's going to have his own program, Watchtower and the Occult Connection. But if you want to get up and take a little drink, anybody right now, and kind of get loosened up a little bit, get ready for Reese, you are going to be really surprised. This guy is very, very good. So you'll hear it on Facebook too, friends. We'll keep the program going. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. We talked about the RVs. There's another thing, too, that I just wanted to touch on. I'm seeing all these Kingdom Halls being sold off. They sold one off in Pennsylvania, right on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. They got $503,000 for the Kingdom Hall in West Mifflin. And maybe some of you guys know what it is. It's out by Pittsburgh. It's actually in Allegheny County, right where Charles Taze Russell himself was from. Now they built the Kingdom Hall for under $100,000, and here they are getting $503,000 for the Kingdom Hall. Another thing I wanted to bring up, I really wanted to express. I'm going to bring a woman. Well, I have her on tape. She was on Dan and Angela's program a few weeks back, Heart to Heart. She went by the name Rebecca. Friends, they are putting out notices. They are sending letters to the Kingdom Halls about getting rid of older publications. The Watchtower doesn't want these older publications around. Now, some people are saying the Watchtower is telling you to burn them. I have not seen that. I have not seen them saying burn them. They're just saying discard them, throw them out, put them in the dumpster. But anyways, I really was fascinated. There was a woman named Rebecca that came on the program 2 weeks ago. She actually called the Watchtower. And what a nutcase guy that answered the phone. She wanted to know why the Watchtower is telling people to get rid of the older publications. I want you to listen in. I want you to hear the call. We got it right here. Listen in.
And
Sounds
I'll hold it up, and you can tell me if it's loud enough.
Just give us a second. She come right on here.
No problem.
Yeah, I love to hear these conversations because it's just amazing the control. I mean, from people calling in and the shutdown and it's just amazing. It's amazing.
She's calling now.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yes, can I have the service department, please?
Sure, one moment, please.
Thank you.
Service Department.
Hi, good afternoon. I have a question, if there's an elder there to answer that for me.
Okay, yes.
Well, maybe you'll have to ask the governing body, I don't know. Would you do that? There's a whole list of there's a whole list of books that must be discarded. I need to know why. Disrupt the whole list of discarded for Revelation books. Yeah, because there's a list of literature that must be discarded.
I'm going to slide forward a little
For
bit here.
example, the Revelation.
I want you to hear this guy she's talking to. Hold
If you
on.
were to go to the headquarters and find out so that you can answer for me why this material is being discarded.
She's asking this person at the service desk at the Watchtower, why are all of these older books being discarded? And his answer is, he's not going to tell her. He wants her to ask the elders. He's not going to tell her. Now, I cannot understand why you would have an educated brother to some degree working on the service desk. He's an elder, and someone asks them a simple question, why you're discarding some of the old literature. All he would have to say is, sister, we, like anything, they revise geography books, history books. We have older publications. We're saying they're not of much value anymore. That's all he had to say. He's saying he's not going to tell her. And it ticked her off. It got her somewhat upset. But anyways, if you want to listen to that in its entirety, go to Rick Ferrin's SoundCloud. Rick Ferrin SoundCloud, Fearon, and go down to the Heart to Heart programs. We got about 20 different programs in there. So Heart to Heart, June 12th, 2021, Rebecca calls Watchtower asking about elimination of old publications. Check it out. You'll love it. Well, we're going to go to Reese. My goodness, he's no stranger to the six screens. Well, Reese has been involved with us before. So what we're going to do is we're going to start this new program. We call it the Six Screens of the Watchtower conference call. So we're going to do that now, and then we're going to bring Reese in. So hang on with us. You're on Facebook Live, you're on YouTube Live, you're on the Six Screens video suite, you're on our radio network. Got a lot of people coming in tonight. They want to hear what Reese has got to say. So stay with us. Don't go anywhere. The best is yet to come. And you're going to hear a lot of things. Get your tinfoil hats ready, because Reese from New York City will be here tonight. And what he has to say, well, it's going to cause many people to have a full meltdown. So anyways, he's up with us next. So let's get our program started. Let me make sure the recorder's on. And Six Screens of the Watchtower conference call up next. Stay with us. Just get things prepped up here. We'll be right with you. Program starts in about 60 seconds.
The following program is controversial in nature. Conspiracy theories once limited to fringe audiences have become commonplace in mass media. Conspiracy theories have a negative connotation, implying that the appeal to a conspiracy is founded on prejudice or insufficient evidence. However, many are often commonly believed, some even being held by the majority of the population. Topics discussed in this program are likely to create disagreement and dispute. A conspiracy theory may take any matter as its subject, but certain subjects attract greater interest than others. Acclaimed researcher and conspiracy theorist, former Jehovah's Witness, Reese from New York City claims the Watchtower organization is not exempt from schemes, plots, and trickery. In recent years, Watchtower conspiracy theories have proliferated. You will hear information that has seldom been discussed in public forums. The Six Screens Telenetwork management, hosts, and callers may disagree with the presented information. Listen to the well-researched narrative, and only bring up questions when you are invited to do so. Please have an open mind. Thank you.
Well, here we go. We got our good friend Reese coming in from the belly of the beast. Hello, Reese. You should be on your phone, Reese. We can't hear you. Just got to get Reese on the phone. I can see him on the Six Screens video suite. He's going to dial into the phone number. So we'll be all set. We'll get him on here, and he can be part of the program, and we'll hear what he has to say. But he's trying to get on now. Reese, we are not hearing you. We cannot hear you. So take the earplugs out. Just talk into your phone. All right. Well, it's a live program, friends, so we do have technical issues from time to time. So we do have technical issues. He's taking the earplugs out now. Sometimes I can...
Hey, Rick, does Reese know to push *6?
Hit *6, Reese. Let me make sure. Reese hit *6. Let me just make sure he's doing that. Hold on one second. There you are, Reese.
Thank you for reminding me. That was the problem. I was muted at the time.
Okay. All right, Reese. Well, this is how we're doing it now. So we're here. When you have a live program, there can be snafus. We don't do any editing here. What you get is raw, unadulterated truth. So you're on with us, Reese. So why don't you give us, and Dick Borgie, too, is going to be on with us. Dick, you want to come into the queue and be there with us, and just keep your phone muted until you want to speak. But anyways, we're gonna have Reese kind of get a little bio on what's been going on in his world for the last few years. So go ahead, Reese, let us know.
Okay, well, anyway, listeners out there, those that are interested in learning about the occult, the secret societies, the hidden forces, what the Bible refers to as powers and thrones and spiritual realms and powers, the wicked powers of this darkness, I can assure you that they're as real as the hand in front of your face. And although they are invisible, and they are in control, and they are behind many of the actions taking place even today, my research has led me down the rabbit holes of these various conspiracies, one of which was the Charles Taze Russell connection to some of the very powerful and prominent leaders of secret societies that were behind the creation of a new world order that we're seeing built around us brick by brick. Even in current years, it's accelerating. We may have a time to go into a little bit of that tonight to give my synopsis of what is taking place in the world right now as relates COVID and the restrictions on free association, the shutdown of churches, etc., and what the overall agenda is right now. But years ago,
hold on, Reese, for 1 second, Reese. If you want to try it now, if you want to put the earplugs back in, that'll put the microphone closer to your mouth, so we can get a nice, good sound. So go ahead and give that a try now. That should work because of the *6, and I want to thank Susan for bringing that up as well. So we'll see if that works now. And see if we can get a little bit.
Okay.
Oh, that's a lot better.
How about now?
That's beautiful, nice and clear. Yes.
Okay, because I have a studio mic, but the only way I could use that is through the video suite.
Oh no, this is good here. This is good right here. Yep.
All right, so let me tell those out there that are not familiar with my previous broadcasts here that I've covered many topics in the past. They're probably still available in the archives. My background is pretty extensive, and I've been around what they call the truth movement, the conspiracy movement, the movement to ferret out the various aspects of the New World Order. There's many out there that are great voices, some of whom are even more qualified than I am in certain aspects. Researchers like James H. Fetzer, Ole Damagard. These are men that have written dozens of books, and there's many others. Fritz Springmeier, some of the listeners out there may be familiar with. But I will tell you this, and I have a great deal of respect for Fritz Springmeier. I have unearthed certain facts about the Watchtower and its occult connection that even Springmeier never stumbled on. Maybe because the information has become available now with the age of the internet, that it would have taken a great amount of time and research to go through libraries and obtain these facts. But going back to my background, I've been around this since around, I would say, early 2000, around the year of 9/11. Years before that, I was once associated with the Jehovah's Witnesses, but the organization that I was associated with bears no resemblance to that which exists today, which I considered a burnt out, empty shell of an organization that was once basically, as I tell friends and family, like living in happy days. Friendly people, buddies that you would meet, elders and congregations that were actually loving, and they had genuine warmth. Even though there was always the cult aspect to it, it was nothing like the total control grid that these people live under now. And so I was a member of it and under its control until I had a run-in. So let me just take this little detour for my introduction for a moment to tell the listeners that I have personally met and had conversations with George Gangas, once a governing body member. I used to attend his congregation in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I had a friend of mine that was a very close friend of George Gangas. And what happened with Gangas was that I had seen firsthand some of the extremely cold and unchristian conduct that was brought to my attention because of the nature of my personality. A lot of people were drawn to me, even though I was not, an elder, in the congregation. I was a servant. But I had found out things that disturbed me to such a degree that I brought it to Brother Gangas' attention. And here's what happened. He spoke to me, and he said, that kind of quaky Greek voice that he had, "Brother Reese, I want you to go to your circuit overseer as Paul urged that we should do, and Leviticus 5:1." If you heard of public cursing, he gave me specific instructions, which I did bring to the attention of the circuit overseer named Milliken. And let me tell you what happened. I happened to be associated with people who were all in Bethel. They were mostly high-ranking members of the Bethel elite in almost the entire body of elders. And what they did is they pulled some strings and they played politics. They knew apparently powerful people that were way higher than a circuit overseer. And what they did is they chewed me up and spit me out, stripped of everything, all the privileges that I had, lambasting me with public denunciations week after week, while the circuit overseer, believe it or not, he himself was removed and sent to another state, banished, because he followed what was in Scripture. So that led me, down the path to enlightenment. And I have to say, I thank Brother Gangas, because if it wasn't for him, I probably would have never wakened up and escaped from Jehovah land that these people live in. So essentially, that was the beginning of my awakening. The other part that leads to the occult connection was around the early 90s, around 93, 94. I started to discern that they were implementing mind control techniques in the literature. It was very apparent. I was surprised that more people didn't observe it as I had. And when I seen it progress more and more, and I'll give you a simple example because some of you are saying, what are you talking about, mind control techniques? Well, what I was seeing, and it was becoming a repeated pattern, was they would have a study in which they would read material in, let's say, some paragraphs or a page or two of a book they were covering, and they would start asking questions which were not answered there in those paragraphs. They were training you. It was to predictively give the responses, Pavlovian dog training responses. In other words, even though the facts are not there, you will still recite what you know you should when you're asked these questions. And as I seen that pattern continue, I knew something was wrong. And of course, the lid was blown off of it. I think what they were doing at that time is that leadership in the Watchtower had hired specialists in the field of mind control, or let's call it a softer word, social engineering. And they learned that you can train a target population to become cognitive dissonant, meaning that what is placed right in front of your face no longer affects your views and opinions. You become highly resistant to being affected by facts that are contrary to what the hive leaders, the cult leaders, tell you. And so I started seeing that phenomenon more and more, and that led me on the path that ultimately helped me to escape. Of course, only with the grace of God can you ever escape from that cult. I'm convinced of that now. And that led me, that was my first step. Now, I didn't know anything about the occult at that time. What happened as far as the occult goes is that after investigating the attacks of the September 11th, 2001, I'm an engineer. My background is I'm a structural engineer, and I designed buildings and bridges, and I knew well that what the public was being told about the collapse of those towers was completely and intentionally false information that was being spread. It was impossible for a modern steel structure reinforced with concrete and fireproofing to collapse. I don't care if it was a dozen airplanes that hit a high-rise tower. It's not enough heat to melt steel beams and columns that are very often 3 or 4 inches thick at the base. So that started me down the rabbit hole, which we don't have, of course, time to go into tonight, of investigating what had happened. And what I found out was that there was an occult network that has been building this new world order, and that these occult leaders, these occult groups have been around for quite some time. I'm going to mention around the time of the French Revolution, but they go back prior to that. Freemasonry had its origins around the early 1800s in England. Other forms of masonry, Scottish Rite Freemasonry, many of you might be surprised, doesn't go back thousands of years, as many of these people claim without any historical basis. Scottish Rite Freemasonry was created in the year 1815 by the Grand Master of 33rd degree Freemason Albert Pike and Giuseppe Mazzini, which was his counterpart in Italy. That opened my eyes up because I started looking into these secret societies, and it led me to the connection between C.T. Russell. I kind of stumbled on it, and the leaders, some of very extremely prominent members of these secret societies right here in New York City. One of them was Samuel Untermeyer, belonged to the Knights of the Golden Circle, which is one that you'll never hear mentioned in any of the books or virtually none of the books that cover secret societies, but it was one of the most prominent. Knights of the Golden Circle was the secret conspiratorial group that had set up the assassination of President Lincoln. And that's now known, that's provable. We have the notes that were sent to agents such as August Belmont and Judah P. Benjamin, in which were distributed by Knights of the Golden Circle,
And they had agents in even the U.S. Post Office back then, so that letters and communications would not be intercepted. But in any case, Russell was directly connected to him. And I found that out when I went to a library one day. I was searching for other information, but I happened to say, hey, here's a shelf that covers Russell. And I seen C.T. Russell. And the name of the book, I believe, was Charles Taze Russell and the New York Hippodrome speeches of 1908 to 1910, 1911. And when I started researching, I said, wait a minute, Russell is being driven and financed, he's being picked up and chauffeured to the New York Hippodrome by a man named Frank Goldman. And he is working under this very powerful member of the Knights of the Golden Circle. So I started researching Russell and going further down that rabbit hole. One time, maybe tonight, if you'd like, we can take a little segue into the connection, which is absolutely verifiable, that I found that C.T. Russell was a member of the Rosicrucian Society, AMORC, the American Rosicrucian Society. I have a letter, or an email that was sent to me by the president of AMORC that confirms this. I also have a copy from a book that I also unearthed in my research, which was written by a woman in the 1920s that lived in New York City, that was married to a very prominent member of the Knights of the British, I think it's the Knights of the British Empire, yes. Her name was Lady Queensberry, and his name was Baron Hugh Paget. He later became the treasurer of the United Nations. By the way, you'll find out that almost all the heads of these powerful multinational organizations, think tanks, Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, and on and on and on, are all members of these secret societies. And this was the case that I found out. And Russell was certainly connected to them through a copy of a photograph that was taken, a photographic copy of the registry from Scotland. Now, most people would not be able to get into the Scottish Order of Freemasonry's headquarters and have them allow their registry to be brought out to them. That is simply prohibited. It would never happen. But because her husband was who he was, they allowed her access, and she has a photograph in the book that is called Occult Theocracy of Charles Taze Russell's name with the 3 pyramid-shaped dots next to it, which means he was a high-ranking member of Freemasonry. So anyway, that's just a nutshell explanation of my connection to Russell. There is much more to unearth. For instance, here's one that might make your head spin when I tell you. I have compelling evidence that Russell was involved with the conspirators. If you know the book called The Creature from Jekyll Island, it's a very famous book about the setting up of the Federal Reserve System, which is a major plank of their global New World Order. And Russell was actually involved with the events that led to the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank by his financial malfeasance and embezzlement of funds from the Knickerbocker Trust in New York City. What they did is they caused a bank to go bust, a major bank in New York City to go bust. And in doing so, they had their players, meaning the Masonic secret society players that were involved with it, were the ones that, let's say, would draw money out and not return it so that the bank would go bust, become insolvent. Russell was one of them. So I said, here we go again with Russell. Not only involved with the Knights of the Golden Circle by giving those speeches at the New York Hippodrome, funding of the Brooklyn headquarters was not, I found, from the sale of his father's clothing stores in Allegheny and I believe Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That was a cover story because the financing that would have been produced, the funds produced, would not have been enough to purchase the, just one of the smallest buildings in Brooklyn, let alone a complex that was outfitted with, printing equipment and all kinds of facilities in order to house thousands of people. That funding came from the member of the Knights of the Golden Circle, Samuel Untermeyer. And again, we don't have time to go into why Untermeyer was using Russell. We'll save that for another program, but I will leave you with this. It had to do with the Watchtower Society was co-opted by this much more powerful group, Knights of the Golden Circle and New World Order occultist secret societies that were plotting to set up this global takeover, this global New World Order, which origins go back to around the time of the French Revolution, and in 1776, particularly May 1st, 1776, the creation of the Bavarian Illuminati. And so since 1776, which interestingly enough, for those out there with a spiritual worldview as I have, isn't it interesting that at the time the Bavarian Illuminati was created, it was only 2 months, it was so close in proximity to this republic being formed on July 4th, 1776. And I'm going to tell you, that's no accident. Those dates do not coincide just because it was a scheduling, snafu. It was specifically done because those leading those secret societies knew full well that this republic was in its birth pangs, and they were trying to head off and create an alternative movement that was going to be just the opposite of what the nation was founded on, meaning this was a free republic based on biblical principles, liberties and freedoms and opportunities for upward mobility, where their New World Order, I refer to as an Antichrist New World Order, is based on a system of global tyranny, servitude, and serfdom. And that is essentially where they want to take us. So their main enemy has always been the Constitution of the United States and the Christian principles upon which it was based. So the conspirators started their modern day push around 1776. It precedes that century, but that's where it really began. And we began to see the outbreak of revolution shortly after that. Remember the French Revolution, 1789, only a decade or so later. And then shortly after that, we had Karl Marx writing the Communist Manifesto and the revolution throughout Europe in 1848, all over Europe. Fortunately, they were put down. And then we had revolutions again, the first one being, well, actually, there was more than one in Russia, but the previous revolutionary pushes failed until the Bolsheviks took over in 1917 in the October Revolution, which was followed by other attempted revolutions in places like Germany, after World War I, Hungary, Spain. Unfortunately, they were put down. I believe right now, and let me make this statement clear and unequivocally, we are in the midst of that revolution in this country right now. And it's starting, I believe, with COVID and the ouster of President Trump. And again, I supported President Trump. This is not a political program, but I've met him personally. More of my background is as a structural engineer. Before he was President Trump, he was going to run for mayor. And so he made a PR appearance when they shut down the Williamsburg Bridge. I happened to be one of the structural engineers assigned to that bridge when it was shut down. And I actually met him coming up with this huge entourage of architects and engineers. And I'll tell you, he had been very successful. What the news won't tell you is when the famous skating rink, Woolman Rink in Central Park, was shut down, numerous contractors defaulted and floundered until Donald Trump came in and told the mayor at the time, I believe it was Koch, he said, look, give me my people, allow me to have the contracts, and I will have that rink done under budget and on time. And he delivered. And it was a beautiful skating rink after he had completed it, under budget and on time, actually ahead of time he completed it. So I supported him because how could you not support a guy when you've seen what's happened to your country, jobs going overseas, sold out by the Bushes and the Clintons, where all the manufacturing base has been shifted to China, cities that once employed black families, that raised good families down south in South Carolina, cities like Detroit and Chicago, now are crime-ridden ghettos. where many of the young blacks, because they can't get good paying jobs, end up turning to drug dealing and other crimes. So how could you not support someone that ran on a platform of making America great again? And I'm looking at these, what they call libtards, these people with Trump derangement syndrome, literally having meltdowns if they've seen someone wearing a MAGA hat. And I'm saying, I think the country that I live in has lost its collective mind. And I think it really has. I think what we're looking at is the same brainwashing and cognitive dissonance I call double mind programming has now been imposed on the population of this nation. Maybe not to the degree that a cult member has been mind controlled like a Jehovah's Witness, but not that far off. And I interact with many people in my travels here in the city, and I like picking brains. I like engaging people in discussion. And I'm seeing more and more evidence of it with virtually every interaction I have. So let's move on now, because we don't have all night to go in depth on any of these topics. I just wanted to cover them tonight and then open up the phone so that you could call in and ask some questions. Let me give you some brief bullet points. I know Jarrett Lush. I actually went to Jarrett Lush's congregation. I went out in field service with him. I don't think that this man is gifted in any way. He was pointed to the governing body as nothing but a political maneuver because he had a lot of political connections in Europe, I think mostly Eastern Europe. So I was actually shocked, as well as everyone else that knew him, when we heard that this man was appointed to the GB, the inner sanctum, because he looked like just anybody that had immigrated here from, I think he was from Austria. His background was Austrian, and I think he had some Romanian or Ukrainian in him, I'm not sure. But in any case, I knew him personally. I knew George Gangas personally, and I knew some other high-ranking members of Bethel, one of whom is Drew Wasco. I don't know, Drew, if you're out there listening tonight, but I went to Drew Wasco when I found one of the most stunning cases of occult and even satanic and blasphemous imagery in a Watchtower publication. It was December 15th, 2013 Watchtower. And I found it so stunning and appalling and really sickening when I started studying the images, because they were clearly blasphemous in their intent, that I contacted Rick Ferrin. And I said, Rick, I've got to come on and do a program, which I did. I then contacted Rick, you probably know Dave Simonian, who, at least for many years, was the Watchtower's person for, what was it, Rick? He was the public relations person?
Public relations, yeah, and, giving information to the media.
Okay. Well, guess what? I know him very well. I knew Dave Simonian before he was even appointed as an elder. I went to the same congregation with Dave Simonian. So I contacted him through a friend who worked for me, a guy named Daniel, very nice witness. He was very happy when I showed him the imagery. He was also shocked. His mother was shocked. And I got to tell you this, Drew Wasco was also shocked. Now, I don't know if anybody out there, will anyone hit *6 if they personally know Drew Wasco? I'd like to speak with you just for a moment. You may not know him. If you were in the Northeast corridor here of the United States, this guy was giving speeches all over the East Coast. He actually traveled to the West Coast as well, district conventions, circuit assemblies, you name it. But he was one of the best speakers that I've ever heard, somebody very well researched. So when I went to Drew and I showed him images that I had blown up and even made more clearer, he couldn't believe them himself. So here's what we did. I contacted the new headquarters. Rick, are you still on?
Yeah, it'd be Warwick, New York. Yep.
Warwick. Okay. I'm not involved with it anymore, folks, so I'm a little bit, out of the loop when it comes to the new headquarters and even who's who these days. But I'll tell you what, I knew somebody in the art department as well, who was a close personal friend of mine. His name is Kerry Gilbert. He's still there. So I contacted Drew Wasco. I contacted the person in the Office of Information, which was David Simonian, who was supposed to meet with me, and he abruptly basically just canceled the meeting at the last minute, literally 30 minutes before we were supposed to meet. He canceled the meeting. And the reason he gave, listen to this, folks, is that his wife had to go shoe shopping. Now, he knew full well, because he was handed an envelope with all the imagery. He knew exactly what this involved, and this is supposed to be one of the most serious crimes, you know, uncleanness in the ranks of the organization that Jehovah's using, you know, the visible slave, the faithful slave. He cancels the meeting. I contact Kerry Gilbert. I wanted to go to Warwick. I was going to bring the images, and I told him I'd be happy to meet with the governing body or any other ruling body that would have oversight in ferreting out what's going on. Because I said, Kerry, I can assure you of one thing. I have many years studying and researching satanic powers, secret societies, Satanists, OTO, New Agers. And I said, I could tell you with clarity, the only persons who would insert this type of art, which was specifically meant to blaspheme and mock Jesus Christ, would be a practicing Satanist. It's not a practical joke. There's nothing funny about it, nothing humorous. The intent is clear. So I was going to go there to meet with him, but the switchboard no longer would transfer my calls to him. Apparently, word went out. You know, that's the way cults operate. Everything is done through whispering, going behind your back, and apparently that's what must have happened. I don't know if somebody listened in on my phone call or intercepted the email that I sent him, but I got a very tersely worded, curt response from him. Apparently somebody had put a gun to his head, figuratively speaking, and that's the last I heard from him. And one day, maybe if I come online, I will read you the letter that I sent him, the email that I sent him, with many scriptural citations that I gave him. I took him out to the woodshed, and I told him, you should be ashamed of yourself, you know, for being so cowardly when you seemed, all the years I had known you, as a person of honor and somebody of honesty and integrity. Apparently, you're another sellout. So that's what happened when I found out about the occult artwork. I don't know any other Watchtower researcher that had deciphered that insertion in the December 15, 2013 Watchtower. Now, I'm curious to know if since this came out, because it went around New York City area, a lot of people were talking about it. I'm wondering if they had it removed and replaced that image with one without those insertions. Rick, it would be interesting if you had access to a later release of that Watchtower, if you could see if they're still there.
Well, they actually, it would still be there if it was a hard copy. Now, in the digital copy, I haven't checked it, but digitally they could have removed it. But, you know, there's nothing they can do about a hard copy that's already been printed.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you that this is consistent. This is, if you're thinking that I am blowing this out of proportion by making references to Satanism and the occult and because the mockery of Jesus Christ is something. If you know about the Satanic Church, if you know about Anton LaVey and Aleister Crowley and what they do at their churches, a Satanic Black Mass has everything to do with the mockery of Jesus Christ, the offending of Jesus Christ, showing disdain for the blood of Christ in the cup that you're supposed to partake of his body and then his blood. So this is how they operate. This is the calling card. If an organization has been, in fact, infiltrated by people that are secretly practicing Satanists, which I'm absolutely convinced is the case. As a matter of fact, let me say this about C.T. Russell's death on October 31st, 1916, I believe the date was. Again, you probably don't know this because you haven't spent years researching these groups, but I have. And you'll find out that it is very common in these groups that when someone nears the hour of death, for that person, a member of that satanic cult, to be ritually sacrificed on one of the occult's high calendar days. And Halloween is one of the highest calendar days of the year. And I believe Russell, and that's why he was dressed up. And remember when they found him inside that Roman, wearing the Roman toga? If you've seen the film Eyes Wide Shut by Stanley Kubrick, that film is a very close adaptation of what is done inside these groups. And I don't mean just the Church of Satan. I mean very powerful elite that have these secret meetings. Many of them are orgies, but they also include rituals. And so you'll actually see it if you watch that film. And by the way, just so you know, the filmmaker was murdered not at the release of that film, right after it was screened in Hollywood. Kubrick died, I believe, about a week after that. And I believe he knew what he was doing was very dangerous, because Stanley Kubrick would not leave his estate in England. I don't know if it was in Rotherham, but he would not leave his estate. Neither his wife or children would leave. So, you know, this is the way the occult operates. And I've seen over and over again, even around us, symbols. I'll give you one simple one, the dollar bill. If you look at that all-seeing eye pyramid on the dollar bill, most of you know about it. It's been covered on the internet. Many people, Alex Jones, many of these conspiracy theory broadcasters will go into it. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot more beneath that dollar bill that I've unearthed. You know, again, some of this is not my own research. It's others who have spent years themselves researching it. And I'll give you one. I wish I had one to blow up. Maybe when I come back on next time, I'm going to bring you an enlargement. That pyramid with the all-seeing eye, the eye, they call it the eye of providence, but it's not. It's the eye of Lucifer that's on top of that pyramid. If you notice, it's hovering above the pyramid. And that's not just because some artist thought that it would look interesting to have it above that pyramid. The reason that it's hovering above is because it's symbolic that those that are the architects of this global new world order, which was hatched on May 1st, 1776, know that it is ultimately being orchestrated by invisible powers, those which the book of Ephesians speaks about, that we should expose the powers, the realms of darkness. And they know that. And as a matter of fact, they've actually made references to it. I'll mention one in a moment after I finish what I'm going to tell you that is striking. So they knew that these powers were guiding them. And so what they did is that just as when a pirate takes over a vessel and hoists up its skull and bones flag, the Jolly Lantern they call it, this is what Satanists do when they take over, let's say, a country. They will have symbology, as we have right in Washington, D.C., in the Capitol building, and surrounding the Capitol, all kind of symbology and occult numerology built into it as well. The large eagle, the owl of Minerva, is actually carved out. If you look at Washington, D.C., from an aerial photograph, you will see that large occult owl known as the Owl of Minerva is actually built into the street layout of Washington, D.C. There's also an inverted pentagram built into just around the Capitol complex. So the secret societies have been guiding these people, and they encrypted the dollar bill with the all-seeing eye pyramid, basically, like, as I mentioned, when pirates take over a ship, to show the rest of their secret society members, maybe in other countries, that we have now gained control over this vessel. And that, of course, was done in 1933 by FDR, but that symbol predates 1933. If you look at the steps of that pyramid, and if you count them, it's extremely difficult to do because of the size of those stones, but another researcher actually counted them, and there's 234 stones on that pyramid that comprise it from its base up to the top, right where the all-seeing eye is resting. 234, as in the Bible, a day, it represents years in their dating. 234 years, if you have your calculator, calculate what year it brings you to when you add 234 years onto the year 1776. That brings you to the year 2010. Guess what happened? Because most of you are going to say, well, I know 9/11. I know the assassination of President Kennedy. I know all these other dates, the bombing of Pearl Harbor and other dates. But what happened in 2010? Well, something very important happened in 2010. That was the completion of the European Union, of all the nations of Europe surrendering their authority to this new global superstate under the UN. And so 2010 is when they gained a major milestone. From the year 1776. They were able to, by the year 2010, have the nations of Europe surrender their national sovereignty and hand it over to the New World Order, meaning their constitutions that may have been based on biblical principles were now overridden. The will of the people, freedoms, were now overridden with a constitution that was drafted by the architects of the UN. And so we have the year 2010, is you could decipher it right from the dollar bill. The all-seeing eye is hovering above it. Now, the reason for that is that it's symbolic of when this pyramid is completed. After the completion of the pyramid, which is the constructing of their global New World Order, and by the way, folks, there's only one nation on earth that is not yet part of it. And if you guessed the United States, you guessed correctly. And that is why they are hammering away right now at the foundations, at the Constitution, at the freedoms, at the Second Amendment. They had to get Trump out because he's very pro-liberty, very pro-Second Amendment, making America great again, not wanting to become a global empire, but becoming a nation of national sovereignty. And I believe COVID was used to do this. So essentially, that's what you have. You have occult numerology and symbology that is on the dollar bill, as well as the pyramid that is at the grave site in Allegheny, I believe it is, right outside the greater. Is it the Pittsburgh Lodge?
Yeah, in fact, it's in Pittsburgh. Hey, Reese, I just want to make a comment here because we're on 4 different networks broadcasting. We are on YouTube Live, well as Facebook, Big 6 Screens Video Suite, and our telephone line. But I just want to make an announcement here. What we do on the 6 Screens, for friends, there's 2 camps of people that get out of the Jehovah's Witnesses. There is one camp that still has a Christian flavor, and they're still our brothers and sisters, right? I'm a Christian man. Now, also, there's another camp that gets out of the witnesses, and they are atheists or non-believers. So there are 2 camps. Now, I know that there's many people that are interested in what Reese is speaking about here tonight. And then there's also a camp that doesn't see much value in it. But what we do with the 6 Screens that no other network does, no other YouTube videos do, we cover all the bases. We talk about satanic ritual. We talk about theological connection. We talk about everything you want to hear in the Watchtower. Now, I get comments I see coming through on Facebook that, Rick, this is not going to help a new witness get out. I'm going to tell you something. That's one of the very things that got me out, listening to some of this. And I got a call from a woman just last week who was still in the Jehovah's Witness organization. And she told me that she wanted to learn more about the Illuminati. She told me she wanted to learn more about the Russell occultism and that connection. So even though there are people that, if you don't believe in God, you're not going to believe in the devil, you're not going to believe in all of this Masonry, Illuminati stuff. But for those that are Christians and understand the devil, they get this. They understand there's a new world order set in place. But I'm not going to force feed you. But we allow everyone to have a voice here on the 6 Screens. And that's what Reese is doing. So you can listen to him, and you can, when we open up the lines, you'll have questions. He'll entertain. He's not going to run the other way. Oh. Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah.
Why don't we shift gears? Because I've got a lot more interesting topics to talk about. I thought some of the newer listeners maybe didn't chime in last time. I'd be happy to move on.
All right. Let's hold right here. Why don't we, before we move to another topic, why don't we open up the lines and see if someone wants to say something?
Sure.
So if you'd like to say hello to Reese, if you question anything that he has said here, this is an excellent time to come in and ask him a question, talk to him, and we'll love to answer anything that you're happening to have a question about. Go ahead. You're on with us.
Hey, Reese, old buddy. Dick Borgie.
Oh, hey, Dick. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Good to hear your voice again. Good to hear your voice.
My deaths have been grossly exaggerated.
Got a question for you. Is it your understanding that Russell got his financing from B'nai B'rith and they got their financing from the Rothschilds?
Absolutely. I could provide convincing evidence of that. Here's what happened. If you want it in a nutshell, here's what took place. The New World, this is why I went back and forth from the New World Order to the Watchtower. New World Order to the Watchtower. Here's why. At the time that Russell created, and there was many groups like Russell around the 1860s, 1870s, the architects here in America, they had already co-opted Freemasonry. So they infiltrated the country after its founding. They got into Freemasonry. They got Giuseppe Mazzini to get Albert Pike to make it the 33rd degrees. And that was their launching pad for basically getting into politics at every level, the high courts, taking over finance and captains of capital. So now Russell, they're looking for somebody that they could use because they needed somebody who had a powerful new movement that could be co-opted. Now, the Catholic Church was not a candidate because the Catholic Church, with all the criticism we hear about them, I will tell you this much. If you look at Pope Leo XIII in particular, he lived concurrently with Russell, he had made these papal announcements, basically warning the faithful of the evils of Freemasonry and that their plans were to try to, through subterfuge, take over our nations. And so they knew they couldn't do it through a major institution. Mainstream Protestantism would have been on guard against them. So they found a guy, and I believe it was because of Russell's Masonic connection that Frank Goldman and Samuel Untermeyer, in their, let's call it a directory of people, came up with Russell. Somebody maybe in that Allegheny Lodge said, hey, look, there's this really charismatic guy, and we think this might be just the guy you're looking for. He started off a new movement. He's extremely good at speaking publicly, and Russell was. If you read that book, when he gave those speeches at the New York Hippodrome, they said he could keep an audience in rapt attention for hours. He could speak without notes for 2 hours, Russell. This guy was, you have to give, I don't want to say the devil his due. I don't think he was all evil, but I think he was being used by them. So what happened was they co-opted him. The details of how they made contact, we will never know. It's like trying to find out how August Belmont and Judah P. Benjamin were receiving communication from Rothschild agents who were located in Canada when they were setting up the assassination of President Lincoln. They burnt the notes. Every time they got one and they read it, they burnt it. So very few of them ever survived. But there's enough eyewitnesses and people that came forward to confirm that these events actually took place. So they were looking for somebody like Russell because they needed someone who could print the literature that they could distribute to promote Zionism. And here is what is the really important point. Zionism, the movement to create a new state in Palestine for Jews, was a creation of these architects of the New World Order. And they were looking to promote it because most Jews at that time were not interested in it. Most Jews were happy. The ones that lived in Russia or Germany or Poland were happy where they were. They were not being mistreated. The truth is, many who lived in the ghettos lived in those ghettos because they preferred living with people of their own kind, speaking Yiddish or Hebrew with them. They weren't being persecuted for the most part, so they didn't even really want a part of Zionism. You know how they got those get them interested? Rothschild, this is back in the 1890s, started funding insurrectionists in those countries to start instigating trouble in the Jewish community and persecution, to make those Jews then say, hey, we may need to escape from these countries. And maybe this idea that Herzl, who was, the guy that founded Zionism, one of the founders at least, maybe this isn't such a bad idea. And so there were well-intentioned Jews that wanted to have a homeland. Some of them were fleeing genuine persecution, but the overseers of these people were actually occultists and Satanists that were hoodwinking them and using them to achieve their agenda. And by the way, I could name very prominent Jews, one of which is Barry Chamish, a very faithful Orthodox Jew, who you've got to hear him speak. If you think I'm being strongly worded, you've got to hear his denunciations of Zionism and what it did to the Jews and what it has done to the faith of the Jews. For instance, Zionism brought about largely an atheistic state in Palestine. Most people don't know this, but the majority of Jews in Israel nowadays are atheists. They don't know that Theodor Herzl himself was an atheist or an agnostic. He was actually a practicing Buddhist, Herzl. And that's a fact. That's verifiable. You won't hear that mentioned on any of your Christian broadcasting networks, but that's the truth. And as a matter of fact, Herzl had an awakening to what was being done. And he started giving a little backlash towards Rothschild about the nature and the details of setting up this state. And that's why they had Herzl taken out and replaced with someone that was more amenable. And so what they did is they approached Russell because they needed someone to use to print the literature. It was a magazine that was called Der Stimme. And that was a Zionist journal that was spread all throughout Europe in various languages that almost no Watchtower members, no witnesses know, was produced in Brooklyn, Bethel. So the agreement was, if you're willing to produce and distribute these leaflets for us, these brochures, we'll give you the funding for the printing complex that you want to open up in Brooklyn. That was the agreement that they made. The other agreement was that you would give these speeches in New York City at the New York Hippodrome, which was a very large arena, and they filled it with thousands of people. Russell was speaking about this new concept of Zionism that Jews had never heard of, returning or repatriating to a homeland, and had a tremendous appeal. And so he served several purposes. And they were just using him towards that end. But I do believe, again, going back to Russell, that the reason they chose him was specifically because they knew that he was occult. He was in the occult network. And one day, Dick, you heard my previous broadcast I did on this. I will give you many more facts that I'm bringing out here tonight to confirm this. But in any case, Untermeyer and Frank Goldman, who, by the way, Frank Goldman then went on to become the first president of B'nai B'rith. And by the way, B'nai B'rith is Jewish Freemasonry. That's what it is. It's a Jewish secret society. It's not a Jewish religious organization. It's more of a secret society. It doesn't mean that they're worshiping the devil. I don't believe that they are, but it's kind of like American Freemasonry. Most American Freemasons are not secretly worshiping an inverted pentagram or have a hexagram under their bedroom carpet. Most of them are just members of a guild, members of a bricklayer or carpenter's guild, musicians. It's only those at the highest level, like Untermeyer and Goldman and others, Knights of the Golden Circle in particular, that know that the inner sanctum is involved with a conspiracy that the rank and file have no knowledge of. But go ahead, anyone else? I'm going on here at length. I'm sorry. If anybody else would like to ask a question, please call in.
Hit *6 if you want. Reese is on here. Be glad to hear what you have to say. Go ahead. You're on with us.
How's it going, Rick? How's it going, Reese? Thanks for coming
Going
back.
Good.
How do you feel about today, the COVID issue, and the end times prophecy seems to be heading towards the east in terms of the Palestinian issue flaring up again recent?
Did you say the Palestinian issue? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was just a lot of tension over there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, here's what's going on. And I have to say, I am not anti anybody. I had many Jewish friends over the years. Some of my, matter of fact, Stuart, a guy named Stuart Olshan, a witness, a wonderful person, really my best friend, one of my very best friends I ever knew. The guy had a heart of gold. He was very funny and very intelligent. The guy was like Mensa Society smart. We used to enjoy having lengthy dialogues. It ended up leading him into trouble, as it did myself, because you're not allowed to question things too deeply with this cult. But there's many righteous Jews. One of them I'll name right now, Benjamin Friedman. Benjamin Friedman knew of Untermeyer's plan and others to conspire against the United States to construct Zionism, but under the phony pretext that it was really for a homeland for the Jews. And right now what's happening is that it looks like they're going to blackmail those Israelis. I don't know, did you know that, who was it that made the statement? that Israel will probably not exist in 10 years. Let me just go back. It's been a while since that one was. The state won't be around. Matter of fact, as I remember who that was that made that statement. Oh, Kissinger. That was Henry Kissinger. And again, you could look this up online. You'll find out this is verifiable. He said about 4 or 5 years ago, Israel will no longer exist in about 10 years. When somebody at the level of Henry Kissinger, and he's in the inner sanctum of these people, says it, you could pretty much take that to the bank. Right now, there's a large outflow of Israelis to Argentina. They're moving to Patagonia. Again, quietly, they're not reporting on this, but many of them are moving out of Israel, and they're buying up huge parcels of land and relocating to Argentina, which, by the way, is really, there's some, how should I say it, irony with it, especially since Hitler actually did not die in the bunker in 1945. He and many of the heads of the SS and high-ranking members of the German Reich actually went to Argentina and lived in Bariloche. You can go there today and see his residence. There were witnesses that went forward. He lived there for many decades. So I just found out there was a deal that was made with Hitler. He agreed to transfer all the science technology here, which gave us our space program to allow us to have the lunar program. And the agreement was, if you keep a low profile, we won't send the ADL after you or other people from the U.S. State Department. We know where you are in Argentina. Matter of fact, there is a letter confirming this from the U.S. State Department that's in one of the books that I read, that they knew that he was down there, but they kept it quiet because of the deal that was made. So they transferred all the technology over in exchange that if you live a quiet life, we'll tell everybody you and Ava Braun died in the bunker. Ava Braun lived there to a ripe old age. I think she outlived him. And he died in 1960. When was it? I think it was mid to late 60s. He passed away. Ava Braun lived even longer. And it's rumored that they had a child who moved to, I think it was Mexico, fled somewhere else in South America or Mexico for fear of someone maybe finding out the identity. As a matter of fact, when they found out where Hitler was, he moved from his first residence, which, by the way, is an exact replica of his eagle's nest in Germany, an exact replica in Bariloche, to a new location. I just can't think of the name of it now. In any case, I found a grand irony there, that they all moved down to Argentina. Anything else you'd like to discuss?
What about the Temple Mount situation and the Dome of the Rock? Why didn't Allenby take the Dome of the Rock? Why is it there? If it's the most holy site for Israel, why is the Dome of the Rock there? The Dome of the Rock says that God has no son. There is no three. So it denies Christ and it denies the Godhead. And when a witness goes door to door, they're essentially doing the same thing. They deny that Christ was the Son of God, and they deny the Trinity, which is not in the scriptures, but Godhead is. So we can see the Islamist Masonic flair through the Jehovah's Witness, who is sent door to door to renounce Christ, to renounce the Holy Spirit, and then leave subliminal demonic literature at the residence. So the Church of Satan couldn't do the job.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was a new world order religion, this will be it, right?
Yeah, because here's what's important for you to understand out there. When you hear me mentioning people like Samuel Untermeyer or Frank Goldman that have Jewish-sounding names, these people do not have a worldview based on Old Testament eschatology or even the belief in the Torah as a traditional, let's say,
Is it more Talmud over Torah?
The Talmud, yeah. See, that's the other 800-pound gorilla that's not allowed to be discussed. The holy book of many of the Orthodox Jews, and I don't want to go into this too much because it is absolutely a verboten subject to go into. I know YouTube channels that were shut down.
Is that the Babylonian captivity?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be the Babylonian captivity? And while in captivity, they were influenced by the Babylonians, and they pretty much were introduced to the Masonic act, and the Talmud itself might be the work of automatic writing, right?
Yeah, you're right. The Talmud, it took centuries.
There are all a lot of witch incantations in the Talmud.
Yes.
Right? So that God had them carried away just for that blindness, to be that stumbling stone. And God did that to them. He prophesied it in Joshua 23 and Numbers 33.
Right.
That these would be from God.
Right, caller, let me just say this. Let's not get too, and believe me, I'd love to have a discussion on scriptures, but people here get turned off by it.
Yeah, I just wanted to reference those two, just to get it started, that the Talmud issue, and then later on where they deny Christ, they're carrying out prophecy through these mechanicals.
Right. Let me say this about that. You're absolutely right. What happened was when the Jews were deported to Babylon, basically for practicing occultism, child sacrifice, and other abominations, in those 70 years of captivity, the Babylonians had a way of basically cleansing you of your former identity. And they introduced some of the leaders. And we don't know the details because I don't know anyone who's unearthed documents about the religious leaders and the transition they went through in Babylon. But we do know this. When they emerged from Babylon after the 70 years of captivity, their views were no longer based, at least a large number of them. There was a faithful remnant, and that was the remnant that led up to Christ. Of course, we know that. The tribe of Judah and Benjamin in particular. But many of the
So when you
leaders
say
had
remove
turned
identities, you're talking of satanic ritual abuse in a certain way?
Oh no, I mean even national identities. What they used to do is they used to force intermarry you. If they brought you into Assyria or Babylon, they would force interracial marriage. They would make you marry someone of a different culture and religion so that they would ethnically cleanse you. And so, but again, that's another discussion. Let's just discuss the origins of the Talmud going back to Babylon. They developed a book called the Zohar and Kabbalah, which was mysticism, and the Talmud.
That was sabotaged every Jacob Trent, right?
That's later. Again, that's centuries later. Now you're talking about the 15th century, 16th century.
Would you say even Solomon's demon worship, and then the Sodomites came in after? In the Chronicles, the Sodomites came in after Solomon's demon worship was introduced from Hiram and building the temple in the first place.
Yeah, but you know what? We're going to go too off. I don't want to go too far off on a tangent here. All right, we got to let's stick to what's the important point.
Hey, Reese, this is Rick coming in. Where we're running now, we got 20 minutes left, and this is just let me just say to the audience what's going on here. This is Reese. Reese is a former Jehovah's Witness. You've been listening to him on YouTube and Facebook and on our networks that we're broadcasting over. Reese, like I say, is a former Jehovah's Witness that really seriously gets into rabbit holes or goes down rabbit holes, finding out information that is controversial at times. Not everyone is going to agree with Mr. Reese, but at the same time, he's done his research and he's willing to take questions. So we got about 20 minutes, Reese. Now, I'm just going to bring up a couple of things. This is just like a trailer. Reese is coming on here tonight to give you a little understanding of what he discusses. Beginning next week, he's going to have a program of his own. It's called Watchtower and the Occult Connection. It'll be on next week, beginning next week, and every 2 weeks at 9:30 p.m. And he'll get deeper into the Russell and the occultism. He's going to also get into the UFO phenomena that's taking place, alien abduction. He's going to be talking about that. He's also going to talk about the Federal Reserve and how the Rothschilds were behind a lot of that setting up of the reserve. A lot of these subjects that can really bring the Watchtower into all of this, because one thing that was mentioned at the outset, Charles Taze Russell, if you guys out there believe in the Illuminati, not everybody does. I'm not going to try to force you to believe it. But if you believe in the Illuminati, there's a bloodline. certain families are in it. The name Russell is one of the lines, one of the names and the bloodlines of the Illuminati. So this is all really deep stuff. I'm getting a lot of comments here on YouTube. A lot of comments on YouTube,
Okay.
Reese. Now, there are people saying, well, you know, we love Reese. And then you have the most, you have the most, well, we have some more people coming in, but some people love you, some people don't. But I said Reese has an opportunity to, at least those who want to listen in can. And I'll tell you, your retention rate.
Let me say a few things. Well, let me just do this because we don't have time. Let me just speak extemporaneously here. And if you're wearing a tinfoil hat, I'm going to make you go into full meltdown with what I'm going to tell you right now. Because let's not get caught up in details. Let me tell you a little bit of the research that I've done, the topics I'd like to discuss. Here's a couple of them without going into any detail. Again, we went into Russell already, that he was a member of Rosicrucianism and Scottish Rite Freemasonry, that he was nothing, that he was not just nothing, but he was largely a puppet, a pawn in the game of the New World Order plans. The creation of Zionism was an essential element of this New World Order, which we'll go into in another discussion for another day. And that Russell was funded by members of the Knights of the Golden Circle, which is one of the most powerful occult secret societies in American history. Now, let's talk about aliens and ETs. I have a very unique take on aliens and ETs. I believe that the alien ET phenomenon is not something of beings that are coming from another planet. I believe they're not what they purport to be. I believe, first of all, that we have had the technologies for anti-gravity saucers since the Second World War. As a matter of fact, we know that the Germans had a program that would produce what is called the Glock, which we brought over here after the end of the Second World War, which was a prototype of an anti-gravity flying saucer. We also know that the agenda to promote all of this ET, extraterrestrials are here, let's say a worldview, has been directly funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, specifically by Winthrop Rockefeller. He was given that task to promote all these authors, the Stephen Greers, the Zachariah Sitchins. I could name a host of them. They were funded by Rockefeller because it was basically hammering away at your biblical worldview. And so I will go into that on another program. Let's go to another topic. Both World War I, World War II, and the coming World War III were all planned back in 1871, decades before even World War I broke out, by that 33rd degree Freemason I made reference to, Albert Pike. His letter was in the London Museum for many decades. It was removed when Rothschild had a curator put in there that removed the letter, but it was there, and there's copies of it that still exist, in which all three wars were scripted in detail of what the outcomes would be and what the wars would be fought over, even using words like Zionism and fascism before these concepts even existed. Here's another topic. That the current global COVID outbreak was not due to some accidental leak in the Wuhan lab or due to some wet market, but is also an essential plank of the global elite's takeover in their final push to bring about the collapse of the United States economy, and I believe the global economy, to get Trump out of office through the massive vote fraud that took place in the election, which was, of course, facilitated through the mail-in voting due to the suppression of voter turnout and, of course, other things like rallies that were not allowed to take place. Here's another topic. Did we ever step foot on the moon with the Apollo missions of 1969? I'm telling you, I don't believe we did. And I didn't just read some page that you might see on or watch some YouTube video, although there's a very good one called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon by Doug Sibral. An excellent film for anyone to watch as a good starting place. But I believe that Apollo 11 lunar lander was actually orbiting in Earth's outer orbit and never went to the moon. What we were shown on film was an elaborate hoax that was made in a combination of the Nevada desert and an indoor airplane hangar, which an eyewitness saw it set, including the sand that is exact replica of what you see on the footage, and even the space suits hanging in that hangar. I believe it's in the state of Michigan. So I don't believe we ever went there. And I certainly, when you look at, we'll go into it in another program, when you look at the countenance of Buzz Aldrin and Collins and Neil Armstrong with their heads down, going into deep depression, alcoholism, never wanting to speak to the public. Folks, if you just won an Olympic gold medal, you would be out there with a huge smile, wanting to meet anywhere people would give you an audience. These men hid away in seclusion. And then there's Doug Grissom, who was murdered in a huge explosion, fireball, because he went public and started, before the Apollo launch, started hinting that this whole thing was a sham. So that's another discussion we'll go into on another day. And again, there's researchers that have gone into this even at greater depth than myself, but I'm giving you the benefit as someone who spent a lot of time reading the books and learning from them. How about this one? Celebrities that have died. I'll tell you what, I predicted a week ago that a prominent person was going to die around around June. April's another date I'm going to give you in a moment. Around June 23rd to 24th. Do you know how I predicted that? I predicted that the same way I told someone when I was on a ski vacation back in 2016 that a famous celebrity or a famous musician was going to die within the next few days, because knowing how the occult networks operate, these sacrifices, many times there are deaths that look like an accident, like Kobe Bryant's helicopter crash, and the death that I'm referring to now was John McAfee, the guy that died in the Spanish prison, happen on supermoons or right on or very close to a key date on the Satanic or occult calendar. And as I say, the girl that I met in a bar out there, we were talking over a beer, she saw me a few nights later when the news of Prince's death came out. And I said, I didn't know it was going to be him, but I knew it was going to be a celebrity of his rank. And I'm telling you, I was very sorry to hear about Kobe Bryant, because he was probably really the most honorable of any athlete. I mean, basketball or other sports, this guy was a great guy, as good as they get. Loved people, loved all people. He's not, no chip on his shoulder, no activism, no taking a knee. This is a guy that was a Christian man. And they sacrificed him and his beautiful daughter in that helicopter crash, which is, it's impossible for a helicopter being piloted by a veteran airline pilot that is being maintained meticulously to have a catastrophic crash like that. So we'll go into that on another broadcast. And let's see, did I miss anything?
Well, it sounds like you're pretty close there, but we've had some people coming in and they leave. They want to speak up, but we'll see if we can get them back in, Reese. But I just want people to know that, you're getting a lot of good, favorable comments on YouTube. We're live on YouTube. People do like it. And I just want to let people on YouTube and Facebook know that Reese has his own program, as we say, coming up next week, Watchtower and the Occult Connection. Now, that won't be live on YouTube, and that program will not be live on Facebook. But if you want to listen to Reese next week, what you'll do is you can come into the Six Screens Telenetwork. You can call in, and the telephone number, if you want to get a piece of paper and a pencil, let me give you the number. You can call in next week and you can listen on your telephone. 727-731-6701. 727-731-6701. You can also go to the 6 screens of the watchtower.com. Scroll down. I'll give you that number there as well if you missed it. 6 screens of the watchtower.com. Also, you can get into our video suite. You'll be able to see Reese on there next week, and you'll be able to hear him, and there's a chat room in there as well. So try the 6 screens video suite out. All right, Reese, we got about 10 minutes, so we do have a number of people on with us. Go ahead, you're on 6 screens. Go ahead.
Hey, this is Mike. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? Yeah.
Doing great.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I just wanted to give you some verification. Everything that you're saying is 100% true. I've been down this rabbit hole for the past 10 years. Actually, it's been about 10 years. And man, I just want to tell the viewers, everything that this man is telling you is 100% true. Now, you brought up NASA. So I kind of wanted to bring something into it. Have you ever seen the Deborah Tavares NASA War Documents interview?
Yes, I've actually heard her a number of times. Yes, I have.
Okay, well, for the sake of the viewers, if you guys ever, YouTube keeps pulling this video down. Like, if you put it up, they pull it down right away. But if you go on there and put in Deborah Tavares, NASA War Documents, you should find an interview in there and just listen to the interview. And it might bring a lot of light to, like, this whole evil system that you're talking about and their plans. And they even talk about in those documents warfare against us by 2025.
Okay.
They talk about weapons being used.
Yes. Let me just say this about
okay, go ahead.
If you have these listeners listening to Deborah Tavares, you're going to scare the hell out of them, because what he's talking about are things, first of all, it does not provide what I provide. What I do is I show you how this entire New World Order progression, starting from, let's say, 1776, but preceding that by several centuries, for simplicity, we'll say the origination of the Bavarian Illuminati from the secret societies. This ties in with those that have a biblical worldview, or those that are just believe that the world is run by conspiracy, as I do. So, in other words, I want to give them something meaningful that can give them basically a narrative that shows them something about where we're headed, how we got here, and who's behind it. Deborah Tavares puts out a lot of good information, as does Dane Wigington. But I'll be honest with you, I had to turn Dane Wigington off the other day when I was listening to him, because it was just too much for your mind to process. It's too much. So
yeah, I agree. When you just get into it, especially, I think you're right. That's for more seasoned people that have been down that rabbit hole, and I would agree with that. So yeah, if they're just hearing this kind of stuff, I would suggest maybe not diving into that.
Hey, listen, I'll say this, Mike. I've been on air, and I had some really, let's say, unwelcome responses just to the information that I'm discussing here tonight.
I know.
Information. So, this is the problem here. I don't know if people can handle it. That famous expression from a few good men, you want the truth. Most people can't handle the truth. And I'm going to go one step further. Most people not only can't handle the truth, they spend their entire adult life avoiding the truth. And this is what I found. But I'm here for those that have an open mind and they want to see what's going on. Kind of like that scene with Neo in the Matrix. Do you want to be red pilled? Do you really want to see how deep the rabbit hole goes? And I'm telling you, I've gone way down this rabbit hole, and I've gone way beyond just the frontline stuff that you get from people like, let's say, an Alex Jones. And, again, I'm not talking them down, but you're not going to get in-depth knowledge unless you do your own reading and research and look at primary documents on your own. So that's what I've done. Now, let's just say this. How about this? What if I was to tell you that I believe right now that this entire globe is under this network of control, Satanic, Occult, Rothschild controlled, largely Rothschild, but not just Rothschild. There's other names I could name, but we all know Rothschild, so I mentioned that name. That George Bush, H.W. Bush is a major player, as is Henry Kissinger.
Oh, yeah.
How about this one? Did you hear the broadcast I did on how the sinking of the Titanic was no accident? That was actually arranged by J.P. Morgan and Rothschild.
Yeah, because there was a lot of people on that boat that they needed to go down. Yes, I know that whole story. That's interesting you brought that up.
Mike, no, there was a lot of people that needed to go down because that was an occult ritual. We'll go into that in another program, and I'll show you why the date of April 14th was selected on another program. But what I'm talking about is the three people of very high prominence, namely Jacob Astor, Guggenheim, and Isidore Straus, that were specifically invited aboard that ship on its maiden voyage by J.P. Morgan at the behest of Rothschild. And at the last moment, J.P. Morgan jumps ship, takes all of his priceless valuables, his grand piano, his sculptures with him, and leaves the three bankers aboard, because those three bankers were campaigning unrelentingly against the establishment of a Federal Reserve central bank controlled by unknown owners, European owners, that would take over the issuance of currency in the United States. And so what they did is they got rid of those three with the sinking of the Titanic, but it wasn't actually the Titanic that was sunk, which is really not material for what we're discussing. It's important to understand why the Olympic was the ship, why it was sunk, and that's because the Olympic was no longer seaworthy because it had got into a number of collisions and they had to dispose of it. So what they did is they said, all right, you know what we'll do? We'll take the nameplate and put the Titanic on it. We'll switch it with the Olympic, which there is a huge amount of evidence for it, including witnesses that were there in Belfast when it was done. And so what they did is they disposed of and disposed of the ship, gained a huge amount of money back then. I think it was $100 million for a ship that was no longer seaworthy, and disposed of those three pesky bankers that was raising hell by having full-page ads running the New York Times and the Washington Post warning Americans not to allow this to take place.
Yeah, you definitely know what you're talking about, brother. You definitely know what you're talking about.
Let me read you.
That's real quick, and I'll let you go off because I'm going to unmute myself. I just want to say that's what I was talking about when I said people needed to die on that ship. Everything that man just told you, listeners, is exactly the truth. It's exactly what happened. All right, I'm going to unmute you guys. You go off.
Hey, Reese. Hey, Reese. We've got 2 minutes left, Reese. Then we have we're up against another hard program. So we got 2 minutes, but we get one more caller. I believe we got a couple on there, but. Go ahead. You're on with us, caller. Go ahead. You're next from Michigan.
Yeah. Hello, Reese.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Ken from Michigan here. Nice to have you back and so forth. I want you to rest assured I support your program 100%. I was listening to it tonight with interest. Thanks for coming back, and nice to have you back. Look forward to the next program.
Okay, Ken. Believe me, if you thought this was interesting, this is only a primer. I'm just throwing a lot of stuff out there, kind of like a scattergun tonight. And actually, I didn't even get through what I wanted to get through. I'm going to end tonight by reading a few quotes. And if another caller does want to call,
we got another. We got them all coming in here now, Reese. Let's take another caller.
Okay,
we're going to go. Looks like a foreign caller or whoever that would be. Go ahead. You're on with us. Area code 123. Go ahead. Speak up. I'll unmute you. Hold on, sir. All right. He hit *6, caller. Caller 123, 123. Caller, hit *6. You're on with us. You want to speak up? Evidently not. He's on there, but okay. We got another one. Go ahead from California. Go ahead, sister.
Yes, hi, Reese. This is Constance. I'm calling from Northern California. How are you tonight?
Wow, this isn't Constance company, is it?
No, it's not. You're from the East Coast, I'm from the West Coast, brother. Hey, I loved everything that you said, and I just wanted to add to this a little bit. Are you familiar with the Bohemian Grove that's here in Northern California?
Yes, I am. And may I just say to that, Lauren, just very briefly, if you don't believe this stuff is real, this is right out of the Old Testament, the old the sacrifice to Molech, which was started around 1879, in which every year heads of capital, world leaders, former and active presidents, prime ministers throughout Europe, and others meet in a secluded area outside of the San Francisco called the Bohemian Grove, and they have a week-long session of debauchery, and of course hobnobbing with each other. But it culminates in a full-blown satanic ritual, an occult ritual, in which they declare to each other and to the world that they cremate the care that most of us are born with, that concern, that kindness that we have towards our fellow man. And if you see it, it's mind-numbing when you see what this occult ritual looks like, and to think that all world leaders are going there, and it's not covered by any media. Isn't that interesting?
Right, it is. In fact, people can watch it on the History Channel if they want to. But it's 2,700 acres that's in Russian River Valley, which is a couple of hours away from me. And it's, like you say, all the heads of state. And they have a 40-foot owl. It was interesting how you spoke about the Owl of Minerva, and they do, you know, a ritual. They do a ceremony, a ritual, and it is tied in with the occult. And, you know, we're talking all about the big players. We're talking about Obama, the Clintons, the Bushes, Reagan. We're talking about all of them, and it's very, very interesting. It's $25,000 for them to participate for about a week or two, and apparently there's a 15-year waiting list for those who want to, you know, become members. But anyway, it's all connected, honey, to what you're saying. It really is, because they'll even choose, you know, who the next president's going to be and so forth. And it's a lot of them are very much involved in this, in all those different secret societies. So I just wanted to say hello and thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet you tonight.
All right, Constance, same here. And by the way, folks, if you haven't seen that movie Eyes Wide Shut, you might want to watch that film because that film is, and actually there was 25 to 30 minutes redacted from that film after the original screening, which I think went even further into those rituals that they would not allow the public to see. No one has ever picked up those lost footage. No one has it, but the film itself has enough in there. Stanley Kubrick, I believe, was having a crisis of conscience himself, and he wanted to show the world what he knew. Because remember, Kubrick was actually fraternizing with members, powerful members of these societies. And so I think he made that film as basically a swan song, you know, to tell the world, look, you better wake up, because this is the people that are ruling over you. And if you want to find out why your men and now women are being sent to fight in these useless wars, no one knows why we're in Afghanistan. No one even knows why we were sent there. That since we were sent there, we went from almost zero production of opium and heroin to the largest bumper crop of heroin the world has ever seen. If you want to understand why they seem not to care at all about veterans in America are committing suicide at the rate of, I believe, 20 a week. I mean, that's stunning. And it's not even mentioned. It wasn't mentioned anywhere in the political debates, you know, why they spread heroin, the misery of drugs and heroin.
Hey, Reese, we got to get moving here. This is good, though. We can take that up on another time. Yeah, we got another program this way. What they do is they bring guests on, and you know, if the guests don't come on, they'll leave. So anyways, great program. Thank you for coming on tonight and being with us. And now next week, now listen, I have to tell you, I want to tell Reese I appreciate him not bringing up, he knows a lot about COVID. He couldn't bring it up here tonight because we're on YouTube and we're on Facebook and they give us trouble over that. But Reese has a lot to talk about when it comes to COVID. He'll be talking about that when we get on our own network when he's on next week. We can say whatever we want. No one's going to shut us down. Yeah. So we'll be all set, Reese. You can take your muzzle off next week. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reese. Thank you very much. All right. That's Reese. My goodness. Next week, be sure to tune in 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, New York time. Well, Watchtower and the Occult Connection. Sure. Well, we are going now. We're going to leave YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, go to 6screensofthewatchtower.com. You'll learn how to use the telephone to listen in and also come in on our video suite. 6screensofthewatchtower.com. We're now going to Heart to Heart. I'm going to end this video. Dan and Angela, hang on for just a minute or so. I've got to disconnect.